This is my lab on Observing and Communicating by Raquel Gomez. Since it is still summer, it was really hard to find leaves. I found about 2 different colored leaves that had fallen off my neighbor's tree. I found one green and one brown. As I held each one in my hand, I realized the green leaf was about as big as my hand, so about 5 inches long. The brown one was really small and stubby, probably about 2 to 3 inches. I did act on the leaves because I did crumble them up. When I crumbled them up, most of them flew away since it was a little bit windy outside. I didn't think about floating them in water or attracting them to a magnet. I brought my husband and my son with me, and my son enjoyed crumbling the leaves and hearing the crunch from them. From communication, we talked about the way the leaves felt in our hands. My husband said they felt like crumpled white paper. As for texture, I felt like the texture of the leaves was ruffled and they were easy to break. They easily snapped in half. The leaves were different sizes. They each were shaped differently, and we talked about how the sizes of leaves were like us as humans. We are all different shapes and sizes and unique in our own way, so we discussed how leaves are also like that. Here are some vocabulary words I thought were appropriate for this lab. I came up with this based on the 2nd grade. I felt these were appropriate vocabulary words for this age level because we talked about classifying the leaves based on colors, shapes, and sizes. We talked about the colors, size, and texture of the leaves and whether they were rough or smooth. Also, what their appearance was of the leaves, whether they looked rough or smooth. Also, we talked about if they felt dull or not. Then we talked about how the leaves only turn colors during certain seasons of the year. The senses used during this lab were sight, because you can see the leaves. You can smell the leaves, even though they don't really have an odor. Another sense is touch, because you could feel the leaves and the textures of each individual leaf. You can also hear the leaves when they ruffle in the trees. When you crumble the leaves in your hands, the sound they make when they crunch in your hands was also a sense that we used. On the first website about leaf shapes, I learned how there are so many different leaves out there in this world. Each state has their own leaf and their own way of identifying if a certain tree belongs to the state based on the leaves. For example, Kentucky tree is an evergreen with needle-like leaves. They need to identify their trees since the Virginia pine and eastern white pine, which are similar, also grow in Kentucky. The second website about leaf shapes and strategies, I found out what makes a leaf a leaf. It says how leaves are like food-producing organs of the tree. It also explained why leaves have different shapes because they have to capture sunlight for photosynthesis. In conclusion, I learned a lot about leaves from this lab. Thank you.